if you're going to have a goal, have a lofty one, is what I say. Otherwise, why do you get out of bed in the morning? Like Elon Musk is like, people say to him, "Why are you going to Mars?" And he's like, "Because I want to get out of fucking bed." I want to get out of bed and go and do something fucking awesome. And I don't know how to build a rocket, otherwise I would. uh, but that's what like I don't want to be here and just muck around and go to a job I hate. I'd rather do something that's going to be exciting and fun, and I love these sports. And yeah, I can't say too much about how things will evolve, but I have some pretty interesting plans that people won't expect for it.
Hi, and welcome to a brand new Riders Lounge podcast episode. I'm Steve Summerfeld, your host on this rocket ship to Mars. And this week I'm releasing one of the most important podcasts I think you should all listen to, with one of the most influential minds in action sports, Paul Everest. If you don't know the name, that's alright. Maybe you've heard of a little clothing brand called Unit, which he built from a few $100 in the garage with his brother Ian, and grew it into a multi-million-dollar behemoth in the two-wheeled action sports niche, which blew up on the back of the glory years of freestyle motocross in the early 2000s, and it set Paul on one of the biggest private and public roller coasters I think anyone could imagine. And if you don't remember the collapse of Unit when it was at its peak, it was like watching the primetime news. It was like when Unit became so big, so fast, but its own success was its ultimate demise. How the hell two brothers could grow such a monster to take over the world, and how were they going to control it once they let it off the leash? While I was never actually sponsored by Paul directly, Unit had such a big impact on not only my FMX career, but every single rider and fan in Australia, New Zealand, and then the world. Unit sponsored pretty much every single FMX competition going around. The prize money, that helped us all to cover travel costs. For an event organizer, it felt like they could run an event without losing money. They supported media like Freerider MX magazine, so we as the fans could keep getting our monthly fix of FMX. Heck, I even worked at Freerider MX as a writer since 2006. And then finally writing my own book, The Ultimate Guide to Freestyle, in 2009. And in the end, Unit also sponsored almost every top rider at some point in their career, from a very young Robbie Madison, Rob Adelberg, Matt Schubring, Levi Sherwood. The list could go on forever. Heck, Unit even sponsored Night of the Jumps, the FMX World Championships, where I am now working on all new events and disciplines of freestyle motocross and freeriding. And it turns out, 20 years later, half the reason why Unit was even created is now being reinvented with the innovation in the FMX bike design, with Levi Sherwood as the main driver right now. And you'll find out all about that bike that Ian Everest had designed and what actually happened to the Unit Skycraft in this episode. But that's the past, and now is the future, and Paul is continually reinventing himself, and right now his latest project is taking off, and it is his new action sports brand called Thrila. And if you don't follow him on any social channels, check it out. This is what building a brand looks like. This is business 101, and Paul is at the coalface and making it happen from the ground up. Now, this interview was actually recorded a couple of months ago, so some things might have already happened since then, but the reason was there was a few time-sensitive points he brought up about the business side of Thrila, and it was just best to hold off on releasing it until now. Now, I'm not supported at all by Thrila or by Paul. I just wanted to hear his story and for you to all to take some valuable insights from this chat, because I really do think Paul is just a genius when it comes to brand building. But I did ask him if there was something that he could do for the listeners of this podcast, specifically because we're all here, because we love freestyle motocross, and we probably already know the story somewhat. So he has created a promo code on Thrila.com, and the code is LOUNGE. And I'll put that in the show notes as well, or on ridersloungepodcast.com if you can't find it. So it's just been activated. Jump on there, see what all the hype is about, and follow what they're up to. Now, as you can also tell, I do believe in very specific partners and sponsors. I don't like just people taking money for the hell of it, running stupid brands and stupid logos for some cash. But I do want to say a huge thank you to my main partner of this podcast, Rothaus Brewery. And even just a van full of beer has already saved me more than they could ever imagine. And I'm sure you guys can understand that. Plus, the marketing manager, Matthew, is also a skater and a filmer, which I only just found out over a couple of beers on the brewery tour. Right, well, that all sounded a little bit too serious, didn't it? Right, let's just get this show on the road and enjoy this chat with a good friend of mine, Paul Everest. No, I mean, honestly, every time I do one of these, we have like 20-minute chat before I actually press record. It's usually like the best 20 minutes anyway. So I figured with you, I've known you for a very long time now. I'm just going to press record and let's just see where the magic goes.
Sounds good, brother.
Mate, it's actually quite funny. It is a bloody long time that I've known you. And I was thinking about it. I actually have a shirt that you gave me. I think it was the very first comp I ever did at King of the Coast or FMX Nationals, and I've still got it. That's how.
Yes.
That must have been 2004, I guess it was,
Yes.
FMX Nationals or something like that. I don't know. I'll have to find a picture. But yeah, it's been a bloody long time, mate. How have you been anyway? It's been a long time since I've seen you as well.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I've had an adventure, mate. I've actually been through various forms of ups and downs and excitements and tragedies and all of the above. So yeah, I'm in a good place now. I guess I'm living in Burleigh Heads on the Gold Coast, which is a place I hope I never have to leave. If I'm open to, if I'm honest, I'll probably live here for the rest of my life. And yeah, about to embark on a new brand, which is just started, I should say, and I'm very excited about the future.
Mate, that's awesome. Well, to be honest, like I'm living over here now in Germany, and everybody asks me when I tell them where I come from. I say, oh, well, I'm from Tyro. It's about 2 hours north of Brisbane. Oh, is that near the Gold Coast? Yeah, it's near the Gold Coast. Then why the hell do you live in Germany? So, you've got the right idea if you never leave the Gold Coast, mate, because everyone here is wondering why the hell I live here.
Look, I understand that. I think the Gold Coast has become the California of the Southern Hemisphere. But in saying that, I have spent a lot of time in Europe with George from Masters of Dirt,
Oh, yeah.
Vienna especially, and he and I are like separated brothers at birth. He is this wild man, and I have had some of the best moments of my life in Vienna and around Europe. So if you're lucky enough to get to be in both regions in your life, then you should count your lucky stars. And I'm proud to say that I've had both places well experienced. But in terms of home, Gold Coast is brilliant, and it is an action sports hub. We do produce the world's best athletes in many forms here on the Gold Coast. I don't know why. I believe it's partially to do with our weather and the surf and so on. And yeah, all the motocross and BMX tracks are all here, and Aussies are known for just getting out there and living it. And yeah, that's, I suppose, my theory on why it's worked out and become a bit of a hub for what we do.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Actually, we'll touch on that a little bit later, but just quickly, you said about Georgie and Vienna. Like, I actually got invited to ride. I rode 2 MOD shows in my career, which was awesome to do, but I never got to ride Vienna, and that's the big one. I know that's the one everyone wants to do. So I didn't get there, but I did do Klagen for the first year and the second year, which the first year was massive. It was probably one of the biggest shows I think I've ever done. And yeah, I remember actually one of the rules everyone told me before I rode MOD was basically you have to go out. Like if you don't go out, don't bother getting a call up for the next event. And I couldn't. Squibby and I, we drove from England to get to the show. We drove all through the night. I think it was 27 hours we drove to get to the show. I didn't trust Squibby to drive, so I did the whole thing. He just sat on the other side and slept mostly. Did the show, and then we had to turn around and go back to England. So I stuffed up. I didn't go to the after party. big mistake.
Big loss. I mean, I've partied with the hardest Americans and the hardest Europeans, and I love my American bros, but I got to say the European scene is on another level. And yeah, just I mean, I remember vividly we did a show on a Saturday, and I think it ended at about 7, 8 p.m., maybe 10 p.m. actually. Went out in Vienna somewhere. There was an Aussie club where they were selling VBs over the counter. I got a free one because I'm a legitimate Aussie, and so. But
Well,
anyway,
do you have to show your passport?
They just knew. I think it was
I think they should actually just know. Yeah, you're right.
Just my accent, I suppose. But yeah, so the riders and myself and George and all the boys and the entourage, so to speak, went out and yeah, then we went to some crazy nightclub. And so we were in there. I don't remember much of it, but it was absolutely amazing. And then I remember leaving the nightclub as the sun was coming up, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to go home to sleep now. And then a couple of the riders like, okay, guys, we've got like 1 or 2 hours to sleep, and then we got to go and do trains. And to people who are listening who don't know what I mean by trains, this is not your normal train. You are in a lineup of the world's best freestyle motocross riders. The guy in front of you is doing a flip combination. You've got some flip combination, and there's a guy behind you with a similar thing in mind. And somehow you all have to do this half drunk in front of 50,000 European kids going crazy. And I remember thinking, you guys are animals. That is brilliant. And I went to bed. They went to the show, and they didn't crash. So, but I was very impressed with that effort.
Now imagine, could you wake up and could you imagine yourself doing that train?
Me, no.
That's what I'm thinking. Like a normal person would have to say, no way.
I think, yeah, you know, the MOD, the Masters of Dirt, is you have to really earn your rights to be on that show, and if you can't party, then you don't get an invite. So it is amazing to see, and the show itself is brilliant. And for everyone that's not been, I highly recommend it. Like the pyrotechnics through to the lasers and everything are amazing. I do help the guys with their merchandise, which is fun, and I get flown over there by Georgie each year. Except for these recent years with everything going on. But he and I actually spoke only about 6 hours ago. He calls me Koala. So we just caught up.
Georgie was awake 6 hours ago?
Yeah.
Bloody hell, that must have been early for him.
It was. He was actually having breakfast, which was odd. I remember thinking, this is not like
I was just about to say, was he coming home from another nightclub? But I guess they're closed at the moment. So, yeah.
Yes, but yeah, good times, and I cannot wait to get back to Europe. So it's not all bad over there.
No, exactly. Actually, that brings back another story, what you just said about waking up and doing trains. So when we finished that 24, 26, 27 hour drive, we got into the hotel and we had to do training the next day. So we were kind of like, we were the late call-ups because I guess two other guys couldn't make it, which is fine. I'm happy to be the fill-in rider. I know my place, and that was a good place to be. But we got into the hotel, eyes hanging out of our heads, and I saw Mark Pignol in the foyer, and I didn't know he was riding the show. I was like, oh, you're here. And he looked at me, and he's like, oh, you're here. Cool. But he looked like he had somewhere to be. And I was like, oh, but what are you guys doing? He's like, mate, we've got to go. We're getting on the bus in 15 minutes. Oh, I don't think it was 15. It was like 5 because he was trying to run out the door. Oh, okay. What is it, training today? He's like, no, Metallica's on in Vienna. We were in Klagenfurt. He's like, of course, Georgie and all of his contacts, they had VIP guest access, whatever, to Metallica for the night. So they were going to Vienna the night before the show, and my eyes were hanging out of my head. I was so tired, and as soon as he said they're going to see Metallica, I'm like, oh, I am there. So I was about to throw my bags in the room, go straight to watch them, and Squibby, the bastard, was, let's say, he was the only one using his brain at that point. He's like, now, just wait a minute, Steve. Think about this. You've just driven 20-something hours. We've got to do probably the biggest show tomorrow that you've ever done. You know how this is going to work out tonight. You'll see Metallica. Maybe the show finishes at 12, but the after party will go until about 6. So you'll have been away for like 30 something hours, and then you have to go do trains and do the job as good as you can. Fuck. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
it's
I thought
it's
about it, and that was the hardest thing. So for the sake of not crashing in one of those trains and putting everybody else in hospital, I went to bed. So everybody else went to watch Metallica, and I was in bed. That was it. So yeah, the story that never happened, the concert I never saw. Fuck it. Yeah,
I'm sure you'll get it back somehow, mate. Just give it time. I'm sure Metallica, they're still young enough. They're still out there, so there's
that's
future
it.
hope.
That's it. Hopefully we can get there. No, actually, this is probably the most unprepared I've ever been for any interview, because I thought with you and we could go anywhere with this. So I don't really have a huge amount of questions, but one thing you did just say before about Gold Coast and why is it so good, and is it the weather? Um, we've also got some of the biggest brands there as well, have started over 20, 30. I don't even know how many years old they are now. Is that, I mean, I want to come back to the brands a little bit later, but is that a drive for you to be in the middle of everything there?
Look, I think, yeah, as I said earlier, it's like California. For some reason, California is a hub of cultural change in the world, and I think the Gold Coast is like a little brother to that in its own sort of way, and has a similar physics in itself for that, which I couldn't really put into a nifty paragraph for you and explain why. I don't know why. It's the sun, it's the surf. That's the first thing to come to mind, but. We have produced a lot of big brands. Billabong is the biggest brand. I suppose it's synonymous with the Gold Coast. And yeah, it's a handy place to be. I feel like we share a lot of similarities. We're an East Coast city compared to the West Coast in America, so there's some difference there. But yeah, it's if you do want to start an action sports brand, I think being here is the place to be. And same if you're an athlete, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah, actually, a lot of. I remember when I first moved to Brisbane, I came down to go to university, and I met Bayard and Sam and a few other guys riding at Bayard's place every week. And it was only kind of us three. And there was another guy, Toby, as well. There wasn't too many guys there. And then it felt like after the first couple of King of the Coasts and FMX Nationals, everybody had to come up twice a year for those competitions, and I guess most of them came for the party. They sometimes rode the competition, and then they just stayed. Then so many from Melbourne and Sydney, I guess, were just coming up to the Gold Coast, and they just hung around, and then it just created this huge, yeah,
Yeah,
group of riders who just got into it.
it just seemed. I think from a weather standpoint, you can ride year round. We don't have huge wind issues. I think there are some pockets where you can build an FMX setup without too much open terrain, so to speak. Uh, yeah, and I think because the brands are here, yeah, it just has become a bit of a hub. And I mean, yeah, when you speak of the King of the Coast, those years. We're talking nearly 20 years ago now, and this is the beginning of the FMX itself. The first backflip, the first no-handed flips, and all of the things start happening. And so there was an incredible excitement for this new sport that had not existed before. And I think everyone had a dirt bike on the back of their ute. Like when I drive around now, I just don't see the same amount of utes, and in America they say trucks, or we say utes over here, but you don't see the same level of dirt bikes in vans and trucks on the backs of cars. So there was a golden era there that I think I wish we still had. We still see pockets of it now, but that period was amazing. And yeah, I still look back and think, man, like we didn't realize how good at times they were, and just seeing someone do the first 360 turn down or something was like the most incredible moment. And Yeah, the sport has really taken different turns over the years, but those were the years where it really found. And it was amazing. We would just have like one of our mates who lived down the road from us, Jacob Methke, was doing the biggest. What's that trick? I can't remember the name of it. You throw your legs between the handlebars and open them up.
Ah,
Uh,
Shaolin.
yeah, so there was this kid on the Gold Coast, unknown. He was doing bigger Shaolins than anyone in the world, and he was a
I
no name.
remember his name now that you say that.
Yeah, we put
Yeah,
him on
that's
the
a
team, like on
yeah.
our brand instantly, just because he was like, oh, we were like, this is incredible, like, and he just was a no name kid.
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. And but what this is probably jumping ahead way too far right now, but you're right. We lived through the golden era at that time. That was everything I knew was happening in this area was everybody's riding dirt bikes. Cool. Everyone wants to do what I like to do. That's awesome. Why is it not like that now? What is your thoughts on why it's not like that?
I suppose everything has a bell curve, right? So it starts small, it grows and expands, and like nothing lasts forever. So the idea that the envelope can be pushed to infinity doesn't exist in any form of reality. And so I think freestyle motocross has reached somewhat of a pinnacle. I always hold people back when I hear them say that though, because I always say never. Whenever I hear one of my designers say everything's been done, I say shut the fuck up. Never
Yeah.
ever say everything's been done, because as soon as you say that, you're resigned to mediocrity, and I never embrace that. So, but in reality, I feel like FMX has gone to such an extent that it's hard to look at what is possible next. Um, but by the same token, it's not so much the circus trick, one-upmanship that we're missing. It's like it's now evolved into like free riding, and when you watch what some of these young American kids are doing now with like Axel Hodges, and they're bringing a new flavor and a new twist. It's like it's park freestyle park meets dirt bike natural terrain, and I feel like that is something insane to watch. And then over the top, you have some cool music, and I feel like we're kind of seeing a little bit of a resurgence from the Crusty Demons era with a modern twist with new innovation. So nothing really stays still. It does evolve, but I don't think we're going to see someone do 5 backflips in the air. I don't think we're going to see someone do a barrel roll. You know,
Don't go saying those things. You'll be proven wrong in like
and I
10
say that.
years. There'll be another kid coming out going, oh, that's
Yeah,
it. I'm
I'm
going for
proving
it.
him wrong. Yeah, and I
Yeah,
hope I hope they do, and maybe I'm saying
exactly.
that for that reason. And I mean, I know for me personally, when someone tells me I can't do something, I'm like, we'll see about that, motherfucker. So I hope I've had that impact on someone, some 17-year-old out there somewhere. But yeah, it's funny watching the sport having evolved and seeing it from the front row seat. I still think that it will evolve in different directions, but where they go is yet to be seen. You have electrification now coming in, which is an interesting new technological, adjustment to what's happening. Whether that really is an improvement, it's hard to know. But yeah, one thing is true about the life that we all live is that change is the only guarantee.
Absolutely. I'm actually going to jump straight in here and ask this question. You're just talking about the electric bike. Now, you tried to build your own bike. Um,
Yes.
you were so far ahead of the curve on this one. I feel like Levi's kind of picked up what you were trying to do, and he's running with it, and he's doing a fucking good job as well. But tell us about that.
Yeah, so in 2002, when I created the brand Unit, my brother was going through university and he designed the Skycraft bike, which was a carbon fiber freestyle motocross bike. So this is 18, 19 years ago,
Yeah,
and we had no money. Literally had no money. So we built the Unit brand on the back of this Skycraft concept, and we could not find anyone prepared to build it. Years later, we did build it. It cost $100,000, a full carbon fiber. Uh, it was a KTM two-stroke 250 engine with carbon rims, titanium everything. We collaborated with Red Bull and Triple Eight Racing in Brisbane. Now that bike launched just before Unit basically imploded, and that bike is still in Brisbane in Triple Eight. And I can't say too much right now, but there will be something new coming in that chapter. And that bike is amazing. I'm the only one that's ever ridden it, and yeah, so this is a world's first for you. That bike,
Wow.
that bike is incredible to ride. The way it brakes, and no one's jumped it. It has not been jumped, but you can pick it up in your arms. You can just walk up to it like it's like a 65 and just pick it up and just throw it around. Like you've never seen someone really, unless you're like 7 foot tall, pick up a dirt bike and like put it in the back of the ute. You can pick it up and put it in the ute, like on your own. That's how light it is.
I mean, Harry Bink can do that anyway with any bike, but or Kane Saul.
Yes. Except
but it's good
guys.
if the rest of us can do it. That would
yeah,
be awesome.
and a normal human can do it. So yeah, so look, I can't say much, but there is some let's say some chatter detected by the what should I say here? Let's just say there's some information coming down the line on that.
Mate, that is well. I didn't see. This is why I didn't write a bunch of questions for today, because I knew things would go pear shaped real quick if I did. So, mate, there you go. But hang on. So you're telling me the Skycraft was the reason unit started?
Well,
or was it because I don't know, or at the same time, like half the reason.
So it is half the reason. So as a child, I grew up in Papua New Guinea racing dirt bikes against American missionaries, and then my other love was art. So my natural kind of trajectory in life was I'm going to build a brand that involves art and dirt bikes, my two loves. And so when I came to Australia as a 17-year-old, I loved wearing Fox, and I thought to myself, what's a Fox got to do with riding dirt bikes? I reckon I can build a better logo than that shit. And I did. And I got a B minus. I got a B minus for the unit's star logo in design college, which is a spark plug exploding in an engine. And so I had a couple $100, and my brother was an industrial designer. I'm a graphic designer, and he had been developing this bike concept. And I said to him, look, why don't we theoretically build your bike and I'll build this brand and we'll pool our funds, which was a combination of $600. And we launched Unit with a CAD rendered world's lightest freestyle bike made of carbon. And we thought we'd build it in a couple of years. We thought, when you're a kid, you think anything's possible. And that's what I love. And I hope kids never lose that. I hope, that ability to think that anything's possible stays with young people. And it actually is possible, and we proved it. But it takes maybe a little bit longer than your young mind would like to think. So yeah, we launched Unit with a Skycraft concept in collaboration with each other, my brother and I, and we put an ad in Freerider magazine, which everyone may remember from back in the day, and our business kicked off from there. And it took us 8 years to build that bike, maybe even a little bit longer, and yeah, we had an incredible ride, and it was 50% of the reason it started.
Man, I actually didn't know that, because I wasn't really going to talk too much about Unit today, because I'm sure you've had these questions over and over and over for the last however many years. But that actually, I guess maybe I missed that in another news article or another, I don't know. I really didn't know that was 50% of the reason of Unit.
Yeah, look, that was the beginning. And I mean, in the end, we got swamped with such growth with our apparel business that the bike, we could never quite find the right combination of people to build it until Red Bull came along later in the time, in the story. But yeah, our apparel business exploded. I mean, even so, I say exploded, but it did take a couple of years to get going. But we started with $600 and built a business with 100 staff, and within 8 years we were doing enormous numbers that I still think, wow, like how did we do that? And the world just embraced it, and Australia was looking for something that was an alternative to Fox as a brand with a bit more edge. I wasn't afraid to put quite provocative themes in my art and push the status quo and challenge what's censored. In today's day and age, I wonder whether I'd get away with 10% of what I got away with back then. which I think's really sad. I feel like the world's in a very, you know, homogenized, sterilized way at the moment. And yeah, back then we just didn't give a fuck, and we got away with a lot of stuff, and people love that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I hope that there's still other people that believe in that like I do.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I do want to talk about that sort of stuff. That's really the interesting part for me is your mentality of pushing everything. You push buttons, you push the envelope, you push everything. But I was just thinking before we move on from the bike, I'm just remembering now you were sponsoring Levi, right?
Yes. Yep.
Because he jumped his bike into Shuey's Dam, and I spoke about this on, I think, the podcast I had with him. He jumped his bike into Shuey's Dam on your big photo shoot day with him for joining the brand. I backed his ute into a power pole on that day as well. He had a really shit day. That's not the point. The point was he's now building the bike that he's building his own bike. He's building it from what he's learned over his career and what he thinks would make it better. Imagine if you could go back in time and build the Skycraft with Levi having all of his input, and he'd probably make everything himself out of carbon fiber, and you wouldn't have needed Triple Eight Racing, you wouldn't have needed Red Bull. You'd just Levi's out in the back shed and just see what he's come up with.
Well, Levi is an incredible talent, and yeah, watching his career go from him being a tiny little teenager to getting to the top of the sport was amazing. And I think his ability to build this bike that he's got is going to be amazing to watch as well. But yeah, if I had a time machine, there would be a million things that I'd be plugging in and adjusting and tinkering with. You know, we did have a very talented Italian race car engineer who built, like, so we had a bespoke carbon fiber swing arm. The fuel tank is in the frame. You know, like it was very, very new age, and this is 20 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a bladder in the actual frame that has the fuel, and yeah, so it would be cool to connect with Levi again. You know, we sponsored him for maybe 10 years, and he was probably our highest paid athlete for quite a few years, and so yeah, it would be cool to maybe collaborate and build some, you know, who knows, some Frankenstein thing that's, you know, for 2021, who knows. And Levi, if you're listening, let's catch up, brother.
Yeah, I'm sure he's got plenty of time sitting in the shed there just tinkering away. So hopefully he's listening to some podcasts. He's probably not. He probably needs to actually think about what he's doing. But since you did bring up everything pushing the envelope, you did way back in the days with unit. I mean, the big one that I remember, and I think everybody remembers, is the Fruit Loops girl. I don't even know how that was a problem, because for me, I didn't see it as a problem. I probably can understand it 15 years later. You know, the world has changed. I can see where it probably did cross a few people's lines, but it wasn't that bad. But I did hear a little story that you might have been involved in making that a bigger deal than it was.
Well, yeah, I mean, the funny thing with that was, you know, because there was food involved with sex, it kind of perplexed people. You know, you're seeing this girl, and for people who don't know this image, it's a unit model with big boobs with a green unit hat, laying in a vintage bathtub with milk, and she's surrounded in Fruit Loops like a big cereal bath. I actually got into a lot of trouble. There's a photo of me drinking, eating Fruit Loops out of the bath. I got in a lot of trouble for that. I won't go into the details.
From who?
Well, I won't elaborate.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, the image itself was just hilarious, and people. It was so funny watching. Like, we put up a big billboard of that, you know, in a certain place, and just watching people react to it for the first time. And the Advertising Standards Bureau in Australia said that I think their exact words were, "This advertising has no relevance to selling hats. We do not understand why the woman who appears happy is in a bathtub with her genitalia covered by breakfast cereal, and this is gratuitous and overly sexualized. and therefore we are banning it. And so I wrote a retort to that, stating that we thanked the board for their obvious wisdom and sound understanding of today's youth, and we wish them all the best. And so we put their letter and our letter on the same poster, and then sold that, and then it went all over like the Channel 7 and Channel 9 news. It was on a current affair. I got interviewed, and we sold out of everything in like a few days. Like everything, the warehouse went from like half full to empty in a matter of days. And that's what I think is interesting about the world, is the idea of offending people, and if you can trigger these sensitivities that people have. And it was not pornography, like she just had some big boobs, and you couldn't see anything, but for some reason it just captivated people. And I mean, it was weird, like just going into the supermarket to buy 7 packets of Fruit Loops and a big couple of containers of milk. It felt weird at the time, like, are we actually doing this? But then, like, in the end, the photo was amazing. And we put the photo on board shorts and T-shirts and, dog collars. I mean, we didn't literally, but we put on everything, and it just went crazy. And I still own that photo. Like, that photo belongs to me. And so, it's funny. If I look on the internet now and I look at Fruit Loop bath, there's hundreds of photos of people who've copied it. And that actually led on to the swine flu promotion, which I don't know if you're aware of, but that was even bigger. So
which one was that?
Yeah, so in 2009, when the swine flu happened, the media loved it because we were all going to die of swine flu. And I thought to myself, I'll just make unit swine flu masks. And so we just hand painted.
I do remember that. Yes.
Yes, so just hand painted these masks with our logo. And by chance, our neighbor in our industrial estate was a butcher, and I rung him and I said, "Mate, when do you get the dead pigs in?" And he said to me that tomorrow, like at 11 a.m., we get all this delivery of dead pigs. So I'm like, I said to him, just, do you mind if I bring a bikini model in to do a photo shoot? And this guy's like a 50-year-old butcher. He's like, oh yeah, that's probably going to be fine.
That would have been really hard to get past him, I'm sure.
He was struggling to say yes, and in the end, I kind of convinced him. And anyway, we this girl Amanda Hinchcliffe, who I'm a mate of still to this day, great girl. She had just won Hawaiian Tropic the day before, or like that week, I think it was. And anyway, we threw her in the in this butcher's fridge,
in the cold room,
in the cold room, and all the cameras were nearly about to break. We nearly broke all the equipment just from the coldness. I got this photo of her with the swine flu mask, boobs, and all these dead pig carcasses behind her. And it was just, swine clothing brand launches swine flu mask. And my PR agent, we launched it as a stunt, really. And then I got a call at 4 a.m. in the morning, and I'm not a morning person. And I'm like, who the hell is ringing me at 4 in the morning? This better be freaking good. Anyway, he's like, dude, look at your email. So I look at my email, and that story had run all over the world in every publication, in every media outlet, from Greenland to the Falkland Islands. Like, it was out of control. And it got it put up in Times Square in New York. Like in the Jumbotron. And within about 48 hours, we got an email from PacSun, who is the world's largest action sports retailer, 700 doors in America, who were in my business plan. I wrote down in my business plan, I want to be in PacSun in 2015. They emailed us in 2009 after they saw that image. And we flew over there to see them and wrote $1 million check. Well, they wrote us $1 million check for stock that day, basically. And we ran, that was how we launched America, from one fucking silly photo.
With what? 24 hours notice maximum that the pigs are coming in tomorrow.
My son was born that night, and I was watching. So I was watching the news. My newborn son was born, and I was watching swine flu is going to kill us all. And I literally thought of the whole idea, and I rung my butcher, and then organized the whole thing for the next day. And we shot it all in about an hour. And it was like a weird cross section of all these moments of my life. And then it went crazy. And so following on from that, now my younger brother, I've got another brother who's only 25 now, and he has his own mask company. And I think subconsciously he got that from me from back in the day. And he did that for the bushfires when they were here in Australia. And then a few months later, COVID happened. So I think he's done like huge numbers just in face masks. And I think, yeah, that was somehow, it may have been sparked by those days back in 2009 when we were doing them. So funny how the world works.
Man, that's so crazy to hear that. And this is the thing, I think, in business and in life in general, it can just be that one moment. You can plan for it, and like you said, you actually did well to even say in your business plan you wanted to be in Pac Sun by 2015. Even to write that in, that's a big deal. Like that's a massive, lofty goal to be shooting for.
Well,
And it happened so many years earlier. Things just happen in life.
well,
And I guess you just have to put yourself in the right place. You have to do the right things to put yourself in the right place that it may happen.
here's the funny thing about the world. Like there is magic in our reality, and I feel like if you're ambitious enough to go for really big goals, the beauty of those goals is there's less competition for them because no one else believes it's possible. And I think it's a Steve Jobs quote. He's like, if you're crazy enough to believe you can change the world, you probably can. And the bigger goals have less competition, and I want people to remember that. And I think that's what always inspired me, was going, why can't it be me? You know what I mean? Like why not me? Why can't I do that? And so that really was a profound moment for me at some point in my teenage years. I suppose, it came from BMX to me. Like as a youngster, when I came across BMX, and I was like, oh, like I'd love to do that sport. And then I learned to build jumps by hand and then dig them and then practice and practice and practice and practice. And then eventually I got good at BMX and I won a race, and then I won the national title. This is in Papua New Guinea, where, to inoculate this, it's not Australia. It's a very small country. So winning a national title in Papua New Guinea isn't that great. But nonetheless, I
Still
decided,
good, mate. Still good.
yeah, what I'm getting at is like I decided that I wanted to be good at that thing. I put the work in, and I became the best in that country at BMX. And then in my life, I applied that same theory in my business practice. So it's like do the hard work, pay the price, and write down your goals ambitiously and go for them. And if you're lucky and you work, I'm not going to say if you're lucky, you make your own luck. And I fully believe that. You also make your own bad luck as well, by the same token. But yeah, believe in the impossible and go for it. And yeah, I think so much of just writing down your goals. So there's a famous quote: 3% of, sorry, let me remember what it is. Yeah, 97% of people don't write down their goals, and so they work for the other 3% that do.
Good quote. Yeah.
I think Brian Tracy came up with that, and I feel like that's, um, there's a lot of truth in that. And so just being able to crystallize your idea of what you want to achieve and writing that down has worked for me in so many ways. And yeah, it's something. We are in a magical reality. We live in a weird matrix reality, simulation, whatever you want to call it, where amazing stuff can happen. And if you're prepared to put the work in, you can do it.
Man, you're absolutely right. And that's one thing I've kind of tried to think about as well. Like I haven't achieved the hugest things in the world, but I haven't really lived a normal life either as a working adult. Um, I I just didn't want to have a real job. That's all my goals was not to have a real job. And I'd say I'm still doing that fairly well. Um, I mean, I call everything a project. It's not a job because everything is a project to me. Um, but I feel like if I do what I kind of need to do, I'm at least in the right place. If something does come up, I can say yes. If the opportunity can't even be put in front of me, then I haven't done the right thing to be in the right place, if you know what I mean. Like I'll say yes to pretty much everything. And then maybe I'll find out that was a bad thing, a bad idea or a bad project or whatever, and I can pull out later. But you've got to kind of say yes first. You've got to put yourself in the right position for when those opportunities come. And I guess you just went and did it. I guess you probably thought, like you said, are we even doing this? Are we taking this photo? of a hot girl in a cold room with pigs. Are we doing it? And you did. And then, yeah, what, 12
Yeah,
hours later, you get this email. You put yourself in a position where it was probably going to cross a few lines and maybe upset people, or blew everybody away and made a news article and went viral. So,
yeah,
yeah.
that particular project, I think it had sex and fear. It was like, you're going to die of swine flu, and here's this beautiful girl with big boobs. So the media love that, right? Because the media want to make you afraid, and they want to also grab your eyeballs with gratuitous sexual imagery. So it had both of those elements in it, and I guess over the years I've become fairly hypersensitive to what I see the media do. And the media can be our friend and our vast enemy. And I think that in the last 10 years, I think the media are actually having a negative impact on reality. And we need to defund the media. If there's anything we need to do as a society, that is the first thing we should do. But that's getting off topic. But yeah, I think it is, important to not get a real job. Like, you know what I mean? Like, most people go to a job they hate and they drive an hour to that job and an hour home and they fucking hate it. And to anyone out there that's going through that, look around, like, do that job for as little, if you have to, but then have that side hustle going on that's going to get you out of that thing. And it doesn't have to be making the next Apple or Nike or unit or whatever, but just, yeah, think outside the box, and do that crazy idea that you never dreamed of, because you know regretting not doing it is going to cost a lot more psychologically later than you realize. And time goes by so fucking fast. You have no idea how quickly and it speeds up. Time speeds up as you age. So get into it and do it now and write it down and go for it. And you don't have time to fuck around and watch maths or watch Master Chef or any of that bullshit on television. If you find yourself in that zone, if your girlfriend likes it and you need to do the girlfriend thing, okay, and I'm guilty of that at times, and my girlfriend's listening to this now going, you have watched maths, and I have, but there is a moment where you have to pull yourself up and go, time is of the essence, and nothing comes about without. I like this expression. Action times intent equals reality. Yeah. And I actually came up with that. And that's how I feel like life works, is like, it has to be actioned. It can't just be intent. Both of those elements can collaboratively create your reality, and your brain is a reality generator.
Man, I feel like we should jump off this call because I've got so many projects that I'm kind of halfway through, and I really should just do them right now. Right, that's it. I'm feeling a bit too pumped up now talking to you. Oh, damn. But it's so true. It's so true. As you're saying all of that, I'm just thinking about everything I want to do, and I do think of the time I have wasted. I also think that there's a lot of things that I want to do, and I do need to think about them, and I like taking the time to process it before I make action. I'm maybe for me, I think too much, and that is a weakness of mine. I probably think too much and I don't act, and maybe I do miss the time, but I feel like I've done that that is who I am. It took me 6 years to do a damn backflip to dirt. I missed the glory years of doing backflips for shows. We're not going to talk about how much money I missed out on, but I feel like I definitely think too much, but at least the ideas are there. And talking to people like you and listening to many others like yourself say those kind of things, it definitely gets me pumped up to
Yeah, look,
at least
and
get
don't feel
more
guilty.
action.
Don't feel guilty for that. I feel like, it is, I've got another theory. Like, let's say there's like an idea that's in reality, like, and God or whatever the super consciousness is throws it down to two people on Earth. Like, I can do a triple backflip, and so someone in Argentina gets the idea, and someone in New Zealand gets the idea, and like, you need to be that conduit where God looks down and throws that like lightning bolt at you, and then act on it. And so I feel like, your goal in life and your role in life is to sort of be that place. Like songwriters talk about that. Like, why didn't I get that song? Like, if you hear like top musicians, they're like, why did Coldplay get that song Yellow? Like that should have been like, why the Oasis guys like that should have been my song. Or like U2's like Bono's like, man, that was my song. Like that you guys wrote. Like they're like trying to like channel these ideas from the ether, and you just need to be in that lineup trying to bring in that idea. Because when people say to me, where do I get my ideas, I don't fucking know. I really don't know. But all I do know is that I'm completely open-minded to receiving them. And I love, like, I get excitement out of like just the slightest sniff of an idea, and I think, oh, what could that be, and how could we do something with that. And yeah, just be receptive to ideas, and then act on them fast. And if you are that person that's crazy enough to go, like Jed Milden rung me and he goes, I think I can do the world's first triple backflip on a BMX. And just the way he spoke to me on the phone, I was like, this motherfucker's going to do this. And he goes,
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, how much do you need? He goes, dude, I'm going to need, like, in his Kiwi accent, he's like, oh, about 10 grand. And I was like, and I was like, I literally put the phone to my side of my head, and I said to my brother, "Can we send 10 grand to New Zealand to get old mate to do a triple backflip?" And we pretty much did the deal that minute. And it was the sonic audio of his voice, the belief in his voice, told me that that was a worthy spend. And we didn't have that much money back then, and we just sent him 10 grand wired it across to New Zealand, just because he thought he could do a backflip. And here's another funny story. In his practicing to do the world's first triple backflip on a BMX, he busted his bike like twice, and he had to borrow forks and handlebars off some kid who happened to be watching. So he did the world's first triple backflip on a BMX with borrowed handlebars and forks, and no one even knows that.
after
And I
after destroying his own.
Yeah, and he built scaffolding. Like the 10 grand we gave him, built this huge scaffolding that was like, like I don't know how many stories high it was,
Yeah.
but like it's just getting to that thing of like he had this like vision of what he thought was possible. He believed in his ability to do it, and he knew that I could help him in achieving that. And I was receptive to find, like, I want my athletes to ring me going, dude, I'm going to do this fucking crazy thing. Like I want my marketing staff to come into the office and break down my door and be like, Paul, let's fucking do this, dude. And like I'm like, dude, that's what I'm like. I'm normally doing it to them. I'm like, I walk into my brother's office or my other, like people that I work with, and I'm like, guys, let's do this. And then normally if everyone says no, I know it's a good idea.
Ah. Okay, that's good to know, because a lot of the ideas I come up with get told no pretty quickly, and
It's
I'm
true.
sure of them. I'm 100% sure of all the ideas I've got, but I definitely get told no quite a lot. But actually, just thinking of this, like, you've been involved in a few of the ideas that I and a friend of mine have had. First was the S&S FMX coaching, because I was doing freestyle motocross coaching. 13, 14? Actually, I think that started actually with what's his name from King of the Coast. I put the idea of coaching to him, and he said, yeah, sounds great. So we started up the clinics like the day before Nationals and the day before King of the Coast. And then I was doing it with Motorcycling Australia, and Shui jumped on board with it. And I believe you created that logo as well for us for the coaching. So you're involved just on the logo side there. And then again, this was when Shui came back to me, because I was kind of basically living there. I kind of feel sorry for him now. I look back, like I was 4 or 5 days a week just living at his place. So poor him and Leslie. But he was nearing the end of his career, and he said, I want to build a moto park. I was like, okay. And I kind of, I also, in a way, went, nah, that's too big. Like, what he was trying to tell me was huge.
Yeah.
And then, the cogs kind of ticked around all for about 2 minutes. And I was like, yeah, this could work. He's like, well, you be the brains, I'll be the brawn. I was like, yeah, okay, let's give it a shot. It took 5 years, and in the end, it didn't work out that we did it privately. We did it with Motorcycling Queensland and with the Queensland government, the Council of Mayors, SEQ, da 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 da. But you also created that logo for us as well, and you must have done that in about an hour or something like that. I remember Shuey sent you the idea for the logo and came
Yeah,
straight back.
that's true. And you know what? Like, when I look at all the different riding parks around Southeast Queensland now, I've done all their logos,
Have
and
you?
I don't even charge them for it. I
Yeah, I don't
purely
think we paid for
no,
the QMP logo.
and no, and I did WMX. I did. There's a couple of other parks, Coralbin Mountain Bike Park, and I don't charge people for that. And that's my way of giving back to the sport because I know I'm lucky. I was talented with design, and if the industry is going to be improved by something that takes me 1 hour, and I actually enjoy it. Like I enjoy designing stuff. To me, it's fun. And so yeah, like there's probably three or four parks around where I live now. Then I just rang up and said, "Can I do your logo?" And they're like, "How much does that cost?" And I'm like, "No, free. I don't want to be paid for it." And
Yeah.
and yeah, they still use those logos to this day. And I feel like yeah, like that's another like cool thing about life. If you're lucky enough to have a skill that you've developed and you can just give that to people and like just be like, no, I don't want anything for it. This is literally just I'm helping the industry. It feels good. It feels better to give in so many ways. And as I've gotten older, I've learned that more and more. Like giving is the best feeling. And yeah, I mean, I haven't, it's not like I've given to charity like billions of dollars, so I can't like claim that sort of thing. But like I don't want this to sound beyond what it is, but mind you, with Unit, we did give a lot of money away to various charities in other forms. But if you have a skill and you can help someone with that feels great, And I mean, you have a commercial reality; you still have to pay the rent. And to this day, I still do design work for people and charge for it. But if it's for a local BMX club, I'll do it for free. I'll enjoy every second of it, and it'll take me one day, maybe an hour, maybe 10 minutes.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's the cool part about all of it, I think. And actually, this is that's actually a really good point that you just said. With okay, not give. Yes, you gave away money to charities, which is fantastic. But also, I look back on the old days. I was never sponsored by a unit. I always wanted to be, but I did go with other brands because they could pay me quite well, and I don't believe I was even worth being paid at that point. But hey, it was up for grabs, so I took it. But I was always within the realm of unit because you guys supported Freerider Magazine. I was paid by Freerider Magazine to write. I was going to the competitions. Pretty much every competition in Australia was sponsored by unit. So you were supporting me in one way, even though there wasn't a logo on my bike or whatever. I mean, I did wear that shirt the first comp because I I turned up to a comp. I didn't even know what was going on. I even had to get pants given to me by Andy Christie because I didn't have moto pants. And I was just wearing like cut off shorts and cut guards, full freestyle, but apparently I had to have full moto gear or something, or at least pants. And you gave me a unit shirt. And so I've always kind of been within the realm of unit, but I was never part of it. But I think everybody in Australia has been influenced by your generosity and sponsorship. And I think it definitely helped to push where freestyle is right now is because of what you did 10, 15, 20 years ago. Do you do
Look,
you
yeah,
look back on that and think about that at all? Like, I don't know if you would even think about it, but it's like, yeah, you were a massive part of
look, yeah.
FMX.
In the early days of Australian freestyle, there was like a couple of pillars. You had Freerider magazine, which I used to design before I started Unit. That was my day job. I designed Freerider for the first. I think I designed issue 9 to 20, and
Whoa,
so yeah. So you might not have known that. Yeah, I designed
I
those
didn't.
issues. Yeah, yeah. So I was heavily in Freerider for a year and a half, and then I ended up doing that magazine company. So they had Morrison Media, they had Surfing Life and various other action
Yeah.
sports magazines. And I said to them, "Do you guys mind if I do all your screen printing? I know a little bit about screen printing, and I made all their Freerider T-shirts and Surfing Life T-shirts and other things." Red Bull saw one of my T-shirts and then started giving me design work. But yeah, I'm getting off topic here. But effectively, Freerider was a pillar. Unit became a pillar, and then the events were another pillar. And so we had magazine media company, an apparel brand, and events trifecta, and these three things were all developing a industry. And I think we were probably overly generous in a lot of ways. Like, if I look back and how generous we were, any accountant would have been like, dude, you're spending $5,000 in Gundawindi for this event. So like I take what you said very humbly, like, and we wanted to push the sport, and we Ian and myself, my brother and I, we were never greedy about having ivory towers, and we had lots of toys in the end, like later down the track. But we were very generous with the sport and with the athletes. And I was paying riders $100,000 a year. Like, some of the top guys are on 100K, and that's like unheard of, even in America. So we were very generous, and with the sport, with events, we were the same. But those early days helped to develop the sport and help breed top Aussie talent, Robbie Adelberg and various other people that we helped bring in. Robbie Madison was one of our first athletes, and they became the best in the world in many ways. And we had a very small part to play in that, and it was amazing to say that we got to be a part of it.
Back.
You back?
Yeah, I'm here.
Dropped out. I got you. Oh, here we go. Yeah. No, that just dropped out. So yeah, just tying off where we were there. Yeah, those early years, I think, in any scene, a lot of the early industries and the early companies involved help spearhead. If you look in America, like I would say SMP and Motocross Action magazine and LBZ, Moto Triple X, Krusty Demons, like those guys held, Metal Militia, those brands helped forge this new thing that happened, and we were the Australian equivalent down here. And what a time it was.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I would like to get off the unit sort of chat, but I do know a lot of people. I guess the most intriguing part was how big it got, and then the fall. I don't want to go into it too much, but I do know that is also a part of your story and a part of the story of everything, because I do want to talk about Thrila and everything else you do. But just tell us how actual big did Unit get, and what was the timeline from getting so big, and the reasons why you think it dropped.
Yeah, I think it's the term oversaturation is a problem with fashion, right? So, an old surf guy said to me in California one day, he's an Aussie guy living in Huntington Beach, and he sat us down, my brother and I, and this is like 2010, and he's like, in his kind of quasi Aussie American accent, he's like, guys, like, size is the enemy of cool. Size is the enemy of cool. And we're like, what do you mean? He's like, so the bigger you get, the less cool you become. And that's what happened to Unit. We became so saturated in Australia that the brand became too mundane. It was in it. What was weird about Unit was people were tattooing that shit all over themselves, like tattooing.
Oh,
Like,
I
and
remember everybody getting it.
yeah, and that's probably the thing that separated us, is we were more of a religion than a brand, because we were against, like I said to my design team and my marketing team, we're Rage Against the Machine. We are, one life, one chance. We are beyond. We don't just put T-shirts on you. We have meaning, and we're like, we're all alive. You live for 33,000 days. How do you maximize that experience? And that should exude itself through our range. And so that is what I guess brought about people really, like, literally tattooing. I have folders of Unit tattoos through the years, and big brands that are around today, people don't tattoo that shit on themselves, but they did with our brand, and that was because we were real. We weren't a corporate boardroom bunch of bureaucrats sitting around bean counters with all that. We were just a couple of punks from the Gold Coast who listened to Bill Hicks, Rammstein, Guns N' Roses, and like we were very much connected to what life is, and like riding bikes. And so that realness was what people loved, but it became so big, and it became like, I remember sitting down in a restaurant and there was 5 other people around me with the same T-shirt on, one night. And it's like, how, like, you can't go any bigger than this. Like, this is the ceiling, And so that became a stigma to the brand, and we became too big. And so it became a bad thing. The brand had a stigma to it. We were doing naked girls on shirts, which was a real trend that came in. And I enjoyed taking those photos, as any red-blooded man would. I would never do that now.
No, of course not.
No, now I'm never do that. But yeah, like it's a funny story, and I think, like, we won Entrepreneur of the Year, so like we got a lot of fame through, like, being these 2 kids, my brother and I, that started with $600, and we're turning over large amounts of money, and like buying houses and sports cars and all these things, and all our dreams came true. And so people don't like that. In Australia, there's that term tall poppy syndrome, and I feel that did happen to us. We sort of, there was an anti-unit Facebook page with 17,000 followers, so there was a hate group.
That's a lot, right? Of hate.
Yeah, and they would mention my name. I don't know any of these people. I don't know any of you. And so you see your name mentioned in some thread with people. Yeah, this, and so you think, if you met me, you'd probably like me. You know what I mean? Like, but like, there's these people like just waging in on like, just hate and. But in the years since, and I know people with brands now that are even bigger than Unit who deal with hate, and I say to them, those people don't hate you. They're obsessed with you. They're infatuated by you. Don't get discouraged, and don't feel bad, because they are emotionally captivated by you, and you aren't perfect, and you aren't something like that. But like it is amazing that hate does create such and social medias, they can do that from the comfort of their own house. And so, and athletes go through it as well, like it's part of parcel of just becoming something that people know. So that was very difficult going through that. We did try and do retail stores, so that was a very bad decision going into retail. I think that strung us out.
Actually running the store yourself.
Yeah, having 8 stores of our own around Australia, and it wasn't something that came naturally to us. Like, if you're good at retail, then you succeed at it, but that really hurt us. And I mean, for me, I was in a very toxic relationship at that time. Like, my wife and I had gone in different directions in life, and she's a great girl, and she's a great mum. But at the time, the 2 of us weren't connecting. So I was in a very bad place personally. There's other things I can't really bring up in a public forum that I went through. And like the whole thing just collapsed, and it needed to, and I still wouldn't change it. I learned so much, and sometimes you need to have your dreams taken away from you to realize how real life is.
So in the end, it was one of the best things for you?
Well, I'm in a happier place now, and I still have problems. Like, I'm still like everyone else. Like, I still, today was a tough one for me for various other reasons, but I am in a happier place now than I was as a multi-millionaire years ago in a situation that was so high pressure. And I right now, I live for what's coming. And I also know how to set up a business so that I can still enjoy it. And my family, the people I care about, are number one, and they are what I get out of bed for and why we do what we do. And making another $1 million is less important than going to Fraser Island that summer holiday with the family. You know what I mean? And I didn't have that priority right with the unit. I was always about, I want to build my business and we're going to do this, and then, and I made many mistakes, and my priorities were outside of where they should have been, and yeah, it was a tough ride for someone who's never run a business, going through, you don't think all your dreams are going to come true. You hope they do, but that
Yeah.
doesn't always happen. And I learned heaps, man. I learned so much, and now I can apply all that knowledge to what's happening in my new brand Thriller, which is so fun and really getting exciting now.
Well, tell us about Thriller because I mean, we were trying to hook up and talk probably 6 months ago, and then life always gets in the way. And then I just saw the other day that, yeah, you're putting this new brand Thriller up for the first round of investments, and you put that out publicly. And I thought, whoa, okay, hang on. Now I need to have a bit of a chat here with Paul and see what the hell's going on. So, first question, straight away, what is Thriller?
Yeah, so Thriller is a new brand, a new concept that will encapsulate the thrill of riding bikes. That's what it's about. It is an understanding of this limited time we human beings have on Earth, and these two-wheel machines that we all get to ride, and that we've all personally, involved our lives around. It's a celebration of that, and people say to me, "Is this another unit?" And I say, "No. This is a more contemporary and I would say cleaner, um, modern version of my celebration of what two wheel sport has done in my life and where I think it's going to go." And it's also an opportunity. It's a canvas for me to put artwork and design work down. So I have very cerebral design and artwork stuff that's very deep, and it's very difficult to put that on t-shirts. So at this current moment, our range is not contemporary art on t-shirts, which is something that you'll see start to happen later with this brand. But it is a new twist to what has become a pretty boring segment. I don't look around and see brands that I feel like I'm getting excited over. Like I think there's some new brands like Fast House is obviously out there in America, and they're sort of making waves and getting some traction, and we're all building this industry and this sport. And I'm like, I'm going to get back in and do this. I'm just going to jump back in the mix and go for this. And with Unit, I started with $600, and so my plan with Thriller is to bring in some capital. I have some of my own capital that I've invested, obviously, and most of that came from Unit. So Thriller is
Yeah.
the child of Unit in some ways. Um, and yeah, we've had an amazing reaction, and the plan is to build some capital and take this new brand to the world.
Do you have lofty goals for Thriller like you had for Unit?
I have
Even
lost.
bigger, or have you changed those goals? Are they
Look,
completely different types of goals?
it's a great question you asked that, and so my reaction to that is I do have lofty goals for Thriller. In a word, I also have pivoting goals for Thriller. A
Okay.
lot of stuff I can't really go into details on because they're still in its infancy. But I've taken great stock of what the industry is and what other industries coexist with um, action sport. And so you will see this brand evolve quite amazingly over the next 5 years. And we've like we're easily double what Unit did in its first 6 months of its life, and it's still a small brand. We're still just getting going, but yeah, it's so good to not have my first rodeo. This is my second rodeo, so I'm taking all of those lessons. And yeah, I mean, ambitious goals are a double-edged sword because you can put too much pressure on oneself. But if you're going to have a goal, have a lofty one, is what I say. Otherwise, why do you get out of bed in the morning? Like Elon Musk is like, why people say to him, "Why are you going to Mars?" And he's like, "Because I want to get out of fucking bed."
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want to get out of bed and go and do something fucking awesome. And I don't know how to build a rocket, otherwise I would. uh, but that's what like I don't want to be here and just muck around and go to a job I hate. I'd rather do something that's going to be exciting and fun, and I love these sports. And yeah, I can't say too much about how things will evolve, but I have some pretty interesting plans that people won't expect for it. You there, mate? I've just got to like plug in my
Yeah.
I got to plug my PowerPoint in. Sorry.
I thought that might be the case. Man, it sucks. You're on a hell of a roll there, and again, I was getting all pumped up, and then you cut out.
Oh
But
damn.
uh, but no, I mean, I was just thinking Elon Musk doesn't know how to make a rocket, but he knows the right people to put in charge of making that rocket. Would that be the same as well for Thriller? There'll be you, uh, you're getting in this investment to kick off at the start. I guess you didn't do that when you started Unit. So this is a completely different way of going about business.
It absolutely is, and with Unit, my brother and I had $600, as I said, but we never quite caught up to that because you end up having to develop such a large bank account to fund your own growth, and so you end up choking yourself out through your own growth. So with Thriller, by bringing in capital, it means we can be ahead of the growth curve, and then apply that into other areas. And I mean, I'm a big believer too in having a goal and being prepared to deviate from that goal based on how the world changes, and the goal. Sorry, the key is to have a goal and be heading in a direction, and that direction may change. And yeah, it's definitely a lot easier when you have capital with you and experience. Like I don't think anyone would have invested in me as a 24-year-old starting Unit. But now, having had the rodeo and the journey, I'm probably a more secure investment in knowing how this works. So and it's been amazing. The reaction I've had so far. We have an enormous amount of interest in that.
With that investment, what's the first kind of plan? Where do you go with raising capital in a brand you've just started? You've sponsored a fair few young races. BMX, I guess that's what you're into a lot at the moment.
Yes.
Where do you go from kind of that doing logos for clubs and then sponsoring the riders at those clubs, and then I think you even sponsored one of the clubs outright as well. Then what?
Well, you start small, and you work from the grassroots up. So with this whole COVID scenario, BMX is booming. BMX is now one of the largest sports for families in Australia, and it's we had an event in Sydney a couple of weeks ago, 750 riders, um, and it takes me back to my childhood. And I look at what they're wearing when they're racing, and they're still wearing leather motocross pants and stuff like that. And it's like, no, we need to innovate the pant. So actually, I'm only 4 or 5 days from launching a new innovative BMX pant.
Whoa.
Yeah, so it's technologically lifting what people are wearing and racing in now, and being I guess, yeah, like the only option for people to, if they want to be a serious racer, they wear our stuff. And if they want to look different and they want to have someone who's a designer, like a lot of brands don't even have designers who are designing their product, So, yeah, we'll start small, and from small things, big things can grow. So BMX is our core sport at this moment. Motocross and mountain bike is second, but those are also coming up. And yeah, I can't say a great deal about what's coming, just with some of the I guess, yeah, details. But scaling a action sports brand is something I've done, and the key is having good technology that looks good and is well priced, and yeah, that people I guess have a gravity towards, because it has a meaning beyond, oh, that's just a you know that's a Scott jersey, or that's a Troy Lee Designs jersey. And I'm not bagging those brands, but there needs to be more of a yeah, I think there needs to be more of a religion and a meaning behind brands for people to really adhere to them. And yeah, developing that as we go is the key for us.
The first thing that I think of straight away is, I guess, unit. You weren't so much, let's call it, in protective equipment. Like the last podcast actually was with Nate Adams, and he created the Deft gloves, which wasn't even a thing to have a glove company, but he created like racewear that makes him ride better. Unit probably wasn't really like that. Unit was a brand. It was about creating. It was kind of like your creative outlet in a way. But straight away now with Thriller, you're talking about pants that are innovative. So you're going into something functional as well as something
Yes.
that, yeah, creating a religion
Yeah,
around a brand, around your ethos.
exactly right. And that's good. It's cool that you actually noticed that, because Unit was very much my creative outlet for my own slightly deranged mind. And I looked at t-shirts like a canvas, like a painting. And with Thriller, our racewear and our product, our functional product, is our primary focus. And I think that's laying the foundations for where I want to take the brand beyond. So you'll see more and more of that stuff come out later as we build um, our fashion side of things. And yeah, I have a meeting with a very large retailer in the next 2 weeks, where we haven't even approached wholesale. We've only been doing events and online. We're in a proof of concept stage at this time, which has been really successful. People who just like walked up to our stand in Sydney, did not know about Thriller at all. We're like, what's this brand? And we're just like, oh, so this is a new brand and this is what we are. Instantly, they're measuring up their kids to order jerseys. And so that proof of concept for me was really in abundance at that event. And so now it's scaling that. And then, we have plans of making helmets and, gloves. Maybe we might make another dirt bike. I don't know. Maybe we will make a rocket. I don't know. I don't want to.
Off to
Maybe,
Mars.
yeah. Yeah, I love the idea of building stuff that hasn't been built. And but yeah, for me, like, I love making a statement. I like having positive messages out there, and questioning the status quo. I get quite political. I look at what's happening in the world today and how censorship is taking over, and even free speech is to know that free speech is under attack in 2021 is mind blowing to me. It blows my mind with the amount of history we have as a species. To know that free speech is under attack is just not acceptable. And so I have, probably um, bigger goals down the track with that sort of thing. And normally that I do murals and other contemporary art, and that keeps me occupied. But that does find its way into my t-shirt designs as well.
Oh, well, exactly. Like that's you pushing the boundaries and pushing what's accepted in the mainstream. Is that something where you'll go again with Thriller? Like, is the virality that you created before things were called viral 20 years ago? You've obviously learnt those lessons, and you knew how to do them even back then, or you put yourself in the right position that they came off. Is that a marketing tactic that you would use now, or have you got other tools in your toolkit?
Well, yeah, I think those sort of projects and stunts, so to speak, that we did are something that are part of my own psychology and my own personality, and I would not hold back from using them in Thriller, depending on the situation. Um, I have 3 kids now myself, and so I'm not, 21 without responsibility. So,
That's it. It
yeah,
was a different time, but one, it was a different time, and two, you were young.
yes,
Um, I
you can
guess,
get
yeah.
away
Now
with
it's
a lot more. Yeah.
exactly.
So, I mean, look, I do have other outlets that I run anonymously where I can kind of say things because of this cancel culture situation that we're in now. all it takes is for one person to be offended, and MSNBC will cancel you, or YouTube will cancel you. So
Yeah.
survivability is also relevant to my mind. And the problem with truth is it's like getting shampoo on an airplane. I think there's a song about it. it People don't like truth, and it's a shame, because truth is how we evolved. It's how we came down from the trees. It's how we move forward. And at the moment, we are actually going backwards. Um, and so I have to just navigate my new brand, which is my livelihood, with my own angst around the state of the world, and the misinformation that exists there. So, yeah, I have other outlets where I can be provocative and truth telling without destroying my own livelihood, and that's the problem. Like, I feel sorry for any entertainer right now. Like, John Cena was, I think, did a movie and like mentioned Taiwan, and next minute has to go and apologize in Chinese, and so the Chinese government is now dictating American Hollywood stars what they can and can't say, and it's like, how did we get here?
Yeah, I'm with you on that. The survivability is probably the key word out of all of that. You don't own your Facebook account. You don't own your YouTube. You don't own that. If they want to kick you because you've said the wrong thing or you've put the wrong ad up for your new brand or whatever, that's it. You're out.
Oh,
Better
if
make a
you
new account and hopefully you can build it up. And in this day and age, trying to get past any algorithm, whew, that's a tough job.
it is honestly, and for some reason, Silicon Valley has become so woke and so left that it makes me think the artificial intelligence is already in control of those things. And so, yeah, it really, it's a shame that they've grabbed a hold, like that political stance has got the its hands around the throat of free speech. And yeah, I mean, this is a whole topic for another 15
Yeah,
hours.
exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, it does tie into branding and apparel and fashion and what you say. And I like art that has meaning. I don't like art that has decoration. If your art is decorative, I don't give a fuck. I want you to say something. And if I disagree with you, I love that. I love being able to say to someone, I disagree with your stance. I'm still your mate,
Yeah.
but I'm going to challenge you on those points. And even if we disagree, I'm still your fucking mate, and I'm
Yeah.
not. And if you disagree with me, I hope you can still be my friend, and that doesn't seem to want to exist, like, it's like, oh, if we disagree about, this topic, then we can't be friends. Like, no, that's not how we meant to live. It's meant to be a debate.
Yeah, exactly right. And it's that fear which I think probably hinders most brands. And actually, this is one question that I had from one of our listeners, Jessica Forhay. I hope I pronounced the name right. She's also a graphic designer, and she wanted to ask about building brands. But the question that I liked from her was, do you have how do you deal with the self doubt of building a brand? And in my mind, that's why I brought it up now, is that survivability, the fear around what do you say with a brand, because you say what you say, and it's awesome that you say it. But do you have a fear of self-doubt that you're starting a brand or what you put out in that brand? How do you deal with that?
Yeah, I think it's like anything. Like, you can have self doubt about starting a new job, or anything, and I believe it comes down to your own plan for your own life. Like, what do you want to do in life, and how are you mitigating the challenges that come along, and having that belief in yourself, and being prepared to build the airplane as you're taxiing down the runway. You're never going to be able to build the Concorde in the hangar and then go and take it off. That life doesn't give you that luxury. You're gonna kind of have to build it with flaws, and then try and take off with the flaws. I say to people starting brands, and I coach many brands that are starting, like, don't think that there's going to come this perfect moment when you can start. It's like, you can go to my Thriller site now and there's errors in it, but, or I would never have started, So, and same with Unit, it was highly flawed. My encouragement to people is to just start with the flaws and with the self doubt, and think and learn on your feet, and talk to people and ask for feedback, and be prepared to push back against negative feedback for your own reasons if you believe in them, and don't be a statistic who listens to their own self-doubt and then stays in the job they hate. Fight back.
Yeah, good answer, man. I'm with you on that one. So with Thriller, who's involved in it? Is your brother Ian involved in it, or your other younger brother? Are they involved in Thriller, or is this a Paul backed adventure?
Well, yeah, so I
I
do.
would
I
call it
am.
adventure, but it's an adventure, I think.
It is an adventure. Look, I am accumulating a board, so I have a board of people that are involved with the business. Both my brothers are on that board. My younger brother Ian, who did unit with me, he runs Princess Polly, which is like a 400 $500 million business globally. He doesn't own that business, but he manages it in the Australian entity and is really enjoying that, and is highly successful. And he is brilliant at that. So he's fairly tapped out with his time, but he is very excited to see what I'm doing with it, and his knowledge is amazing, and I value his opinion. So he's in my corner. And then my other brother Mark, who's only 25, as I mentioned, he's like my millennial kind of like spokesperson. So he gets in there and tells me when I've messed up, or his advice from his point of view. So but in a word, it is my own creation at this stage, and I do have some great people around me who are helping me. My girlfriend Jenna has been incredible. I can't thank her enough for the work she's put into getting me through some tough times in my life, through losing unit, losing a marriage, and losing potentially kids and everything like that. You need a good woman in your life, and she's been that for me. So I've got great people around me, and I've got the motivation to go and do something even better. And then with capital, when you raise capital, you inevitably bring in some fairly big heavy hitters. So like some of the people that are involved on the sidelines now coming into this business are some pretty big heavy hitters. I can't name them, but they're about to come on board.
Man, that's awesome. That's really good to hear. You've already spoken about BMX and moto and mountain bike. You'll go into those. Would you go back into the same? I guess this is probably more of a board decision, but would you go back into sponsoring like you did in the old days where you were very generous? Would you go back into that mindset, or is this a completely different mindset?
No, that's always been my mindset. Sponsoring people with energy and ideas is how I'm wired, because that's how I see myself. And if you have an idea and you've got the energy to do it, and I believe in you and you believe in yourself, and I can help you do it, I will do it. That's never changed. That will never change.
That's awesome, yeah. Because I'm just thinking, the Jed Mildens, the Levi Sherwoods, the Rob Adelbergs, the Robbie Madisons, all of those guys were under your wing at some stage, and I think it's something that kind of is missing from all action sports. It feels like it's there's not that much behind it anymore. It's more about just a free shirt here and there, but no one actually really cares. Whereas what I remember every single company or even person that's helped me along, and those points have helped me as a rider, and I'm sure it helps the riders as well. So yeah, I was just wondering, from a rider's point of view, from the sports point of view, you're definitely looking to get back into there.
Yeah, I mean, I know the formula that makes a brand go from like an idea on a kitchen bench that I'm sitting on right now to like people walk past you in the street with that design on. Like I've seen that and I've done that, I've lived it, and I'll do it again, and I am doing that again. So scaling that is something I know how to do, and helping people achieve things that are cool and that people want to do, and just creating something from nothing, like that's what we're here for. Like we're bacteria floating around on this like crazy like solar system designed to do crazy cool shit, like let's embrace that. And like you're born, you die, like you want to have something on your gravestone where it's like, what are we doing, like that, anything that creates this thing, give me something, and I can, if I can be involved with that, I will do it.
Man, that's awesome. You got to live life. Like I said, there's only 33,000 days. You might as well enjoy them. Actually, wait just a sec. I did have another one I wanted to ask actually, and that was more about you know how big you can get, and that came around the idea of the religion in a way, or the cult status, and that's what you're building now. Do you know how to solve that problem? The it, you can't be a bean counter like at Billabong, like you said. That's how they can still stay and be a legacy brand. But to get back there, you've this is how you want to do it. You want to be a cult like brand because that's what you believe in. How do you solve that problem? That must be
Well,
the hardest one.
look, it's a lot like developing a rock band. It's if you look at the top rock bands of the '80s, they only lasted a few years before they just self imploded. So the more outlandish and the more crazy that you get, the less life cycle, the less lifetime you can have. So it is a difficult one because you wanted, like, if I could say what I really want to say, I wouldn't. It would not be. It would be banned tomorrow. And so that's my greatest fear is like we're living in a so much more sterilized, censored environment. So building a new religion, so to speak, is very difficult, and I don't want it to be. This is, at the end of the day, we make jerseys and T-shirts.
Exactly.
We're not saving people's lives, so to speak. But I do like the ability to say things. Yeah, so yeah, building something that can last is hard when it's very provocative. So I very much am acutely aware of that, and that's where unit ran aground on many occasions. So I have to keep that in check to some degree, and as I said, find other avenues to be that truth teller. And the sometimes it's best doing it anonymously and saying truth. That's why graffiti is cool. Who put that on that wall? No one knows.
Yeah.
But man, that's
Yeah.
true. Whatever that person wrote, I agree with that. And you don't know who it was.
Exactly. That guy's already long gone, and that graffiti is still there for a long
Yeah.
time after. Hopefully, um, man, you've actually done a lot of other things that kind of changed people's minds. Like I remember seeing that mirror room that you made, and that's kind of like, yeah, you're not a normal dude. Like you want to do things extra, extra normal, extraordinary, and I don't know, like when I saw that and I stood in there, I didn't know which way was up or down. And you made what did you call it? Is it a zero gravity work desk? And that's almost become like its own trend in furniture design. Like you've got so many ideas out there. Are you pushing in other areas as well?
Yeah, so it's funny you mentioned that. So I called it the immersion pod, and that was a dentist
That's what it
chair
was.
sitting inside of a mirrored room. So I ended up spending, I think it was 20 or 30 grand on mirroring out my whole office. The floor, the walls, the ceiling, everything was mirror. And it was just like another dimension to really get into a different paradigm mentally. And I always found I could think of great ideas on an airplane, and then that led to me to like think of how could I make an extra dimensional place in my office, which led to
Mm.
the mirrored room. Now, I actually have developed that pod dramatically, and only 5 meters from me right now is the latest incarnation of that. And my goal, so this is before all of these $30,000, $50,000, you know, scorpion desks that people have with articulating elements and rally car seats with big screens. Like, yeah, my room was actually before any of that existed. um, but the new version I have that I want to bring out is so simple and so affordable and so comfortable that I cannot wait to show the world what I've got. I just don't have enough time in the day to do it. But I've actually only this week had a bit of had another like sort of like what like Yahoo moment with like a couple of features to it. So I'm taking my time, but I have something pretty cool coming that I want to launch to the public, which is kind of weird, owning an action sports apparel brand and then going, here's a piece of furniture that I recommend. But yeah, it is from a design sitting and interfacing with a computer. No one has what I have, and no one I don't let people in my house to see it because it's that sick.
So you're not going to turn the screen like 25 degrees so I can have a little
I
sticky beak. Damn.
if you came to Australia, I would trust you. I
Ah!
would show you. But yeah,
Yeah, pen and paper, no phones, no cameras. You can walk in
yep,
with a pen and paper. Yeah,
yep.
no, I completely get it. No, because like I'm just listening to that passion coming out in your voice right now. Like I didn't even know you had this thing. I was just thinking about where your mind goes and what I've seen from what you've done before, and that immersion pod, I loved it because yeah, you do see these scorpion chairs now that didn't exist, and what you created, I always think back to then. I'm like, yeah, Paul did that bloody 10, 15 years ago at least,
I think it
if
was. I
not
think it was
more.
2006. I made that, and I
Yeah.
I only did it for myself. I didn't really build it to launch, but yeah. What's funny about it is because I've been patient and I haven't rushed to put it out to the market. I've I've developed it so far for myself, and that's been cool. I haven't just rushed out to try and sell it, and yeah, I think anyone can afford one of these, and it's going to prevent what they call kyphotic spines. Every human now runs around with their
Oh
head
yeah.
leaning forward, their shoulders coming in, and I'm a graphic designer, so I'm tethered
Oh
to a chair. Like just even mentioning it, people are like starting to stretch. Like I can see
yeah.
you do it. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. What I have here is something that one day I hope to bring to the public. But for me at the moment, it helps me design all day long without feeling like I'm ruining my body and my spine. And so it lives on in its new form, and one day everyone will have one.
Awesome. I can't wait, mate. I can't wait to see it. I'd love to get on a plane and come back home and check it out, actually, but probably not happening just yet.
I'll have a
But
cold VB waiting for you, brother.
no, I got to have a rot house, mate. I'll bring the German beers. Don't worry. A
Actually, do
VB? You're bloody in Queensland, mate. You can't be drinking
that.
VBs.
Yes, well, I bring the German beer. I agree. Having been over there, I will. Hopefully, I don't lose my Australian license for this, but yeah, bring the German beer.
Yeah, that won't be an issue. Now, one actual really cool thing that you did, and you did mention it before, that you help other brands as well. And in this day and age, anybody can start a brand on the internet in about 5 minutes, and they can make clothes. They're competing directly with you in terms of selling clothes, not in your space of what you're trying to do. How do you compete against that? But also, how do you help build other people's brands? Like there's like almost this conflict of interest in a way that you're helping, but damn it, these guys could actually be really good, and that's gonna cut into what I'm doing. But I don't think you see it that way. I
No, I
don't,
don't.
but I thought I'd
Yeah,
ask.
yeah. No, I think in teaching you learn. And both my parents are teachers. So I've
Okay.
been lucky, and because my parents are teachers, I find teaching quite comes naturally to me, and I'm not worried about that. Like I'm not so concerned about developing a competitor. Like I have helped people with action sports brands, and on that, like to really fight back against the plethora of people competing in the marketplace. I always say find a niche. That's why Thriller has started in BMX. I said it's like the Art of War, the book from a Chinese military strategist. It's like win at home. So like I said to myself, we want to own the Narang BMX club. That's the first front line. We want to
Yeah.
be the primary brand, the alpha brand in BMX in our home club, and then we go to Ashmore, and then we go to Brisbane, and then we scale out. So don't try and own the world, just own your local suburb. Be the brand locally, niche out, figure out what works, what its nuances are, and how you can be the best option in that area. And if you're not, figure out why not and change it until you are, and then scale that out. And that takes time. A brand, like, people think Unit was an overnight success, and in some way it was, but it still took 5 years.
Oh yeah.
And Thriller is 6 months old, so we're still tiny. Like, Thriller is minute, but come back in 10 years, we'll see where we're at.
Yeah, exactly. So you then you wouldn't believe where I hear a lot of people saying, let's say for Australia, for an Australian band or Australian musician, you have to be big in America first before anybody in Australia actually cares. They don't care about the local guy. You're actually saying the opposite. Win at home.
Yeah, absolutely. See, America is fraught with. I think too many people drink the Kool Aid about America, and we did. We thought, oh, let's go to America, and we actually did really well in America in many ways. But it also came at huge distraction from our at-home business, And so, getting into Pac Sun as we did with that campaign, it weakened our home base. And getting on a flight every 2 weeks to LA and back, doing Skypes to our American office, it drained us. And like look at bands like the Beatles thought they were going to go to America and blow up America overnight. Oasis thought they were going to do it, and it didn't happen to the same degree. America's not what you think it is. It's it's yeah, there's a lot of bullshit in America, and I love America. America is the greatest country on earth, so I'm not an American hater. I feel like America, if I was going to be born tomorrow anywhere, I want to be born in America, and I want to have. Maybe that won't be true in the next few years, the way it's going, because America's losing ground rapidly. Maybe I want to be born in Shanghai in a few years. Who knows?
I
But
was just about to say that.
I mean, America. I mean, this douchebag they've got in power at the moment is showing us what America's heading towards, and it's not great. So I say to people, fuck America. I love the country. It's obviously it is what it is. It's a great ally of our country. But in terms of business, forget about it. You get there when you're ready. In the meantime, work on your own home base, get that going, and I think it's a 10-year deal. Do 10 years at home, then think about America.
No overnight successes. 10 years, mate. That's a long time.
Look, I mean, yeah, it can be done. I'm sure people have done it, and but you can just get blinded by the light, and you can forget about what's actually important. And I mean, that was some of the mistakes I made with the unit. We went to America too quickly and tried to employ staff over there that were, appeared competent. Some were not, and yeah, it's done with the right timing. If you have all the ducks in a line, okay, do it, but don't get carried away. Don't drink
Yeah.
that Kool Aid down too quick.
Yeah. No, fair call. And with helping other brands, how much time do you actually have to do that? Because the one thing you can't do, I guess, is scale your consultancy. You can't scale time. How
No.
do you deal with that?
Well, now I have to say no a lot more often,
Yeah.
especially in the last few weeks. So with what's happening now, we're starting to get some great growth, and unfortunately, a lot of that freelance design business that I do and coaching has to come off the table as Thriller starts to scale. So that's sometimes a sacrifice, that you make. The only thing I won't say no to is my family now. Like if my son has a sports event or my girlfriend needs me, that's where I'm going to be, and I don't give a fuck.
That's good. That yeah, you've changed priorities, I guess, and priorities have changed for you. You're older, like life happens, but that's cool. That's good to hear.
Yep,
But
that's
then,
the plan.
so would you continue the consultancy with just a few key clients, or is it something that takes a back seat almost completely while now you're in that stage of you're looking for first round of investment. This is a big deal. You've got to be 100% focused.
Yeah, so I like the idea of helping people. So I feel like the coaching side of things will start to dissipate, but then I also want to have some form of charity connected to Thriller, and I haven't decided what that's going to be yet. But it's going to consume my day completely over the next 6 to 12 months, and I don't know. Like I'm actually looking for someone to come and help me find a charity that. All I know is I want to help young people who've found themselves in a circumstance outside of their control. They haven't been as lucky as you and I. Maybe their parents split up, they were in a very bad home, or they've had something happen to them, and they have the talent and the drive, but they haven't. Their circumstance has not allowed them to be in a place that we were lucky enough to be in, and I want to help that kid. And I don't know what that charity is yet, and I'm open to ideas, but that's going to be a fairly big component for where I can drive that ability to help, so that I'm giving back, because you have to give back, and you end up finding that that's really where so much of the enjoyment about living, because you don't take the money with you. You don't.
No,
They don't bury you with your Ferrari. They
no,
leave.
exactly.
That goes back to the liquidator. So,
Yeah. Oh no. Oh no. Oh yeah, you're
so
right. Yeah. Fuck it. But I mean, it doesn't matter. It's just material possessions at the end of the day, and it doesn't really mean
yeah,
jack diddly squat. But if you can help change somebody's life, that means something.
yeah. So I'm looking for that. I don't know what that will be yet, but that's certainly something I want to build in.
Man, that's cool. Well, what is your overall goal? Who is Paul Everest, and what is your overall goal? Because you seem to be a lot of things, mate. You're wearing a lot of hats, and yeah, I'm
Yeah,
sure it's
that's
a difficult question.
no, that's cool. It's a great question, and I think I like to answer that in this way. That you are more than the sum of your parts, and I want to be someone that was lucky enough to go through life and make 1 plus 1 equal 5. And I've done that with unit. I did that with nothing. I did it with help, though. You don't do it alone. These people that say, "Oh, I'm self-made," that's bullshit. No one is self-made. Everyone helps you. So this is not about you being some amazing human. It's like you achieving the impossible from very very few pieces, and finding the energy around people around you who collaborate with you to do something that drives you to want to live. And yeah, if I can inspire someone to go, I'm going to go and start a brand, or I'm going to go and do something, and I don't have any money, but I'm going to go and try that. If my story can help them, and like, yeah, I don't feel like I'm some special person, but I feel like I've got a story to tell, in that what's happened to me and what I think I can do next, and that my story is still, the best bits are coming for me, and yeah, just you are capable of so much more than you realize, and you don't need money to succeed. It's just how much you want it.
Mate, right. Well, it's not long after lunchtime here, so I've got a few hours left in the day. I feel like I really just have to knuckle down and put out these projects, like you said, even if they're flawed at the moment. That I find this would be a question that I'd put to yourself or to somebody else who's creating a business, but it's a question that I'm thinking of for myself, not just for everybody else. Hopefully, that would enjoy this and listen. Yeah, I guess I just have to put out these projects, even if they're not entirely ready. I need to finish them off, or at least get them to a point I'm like, okay, let it go. Let's see what happens. And I guess the market will decide whether it's a good idea or not. I guess that's what I'm kind of
Look,
getting out of this chat with you.
yeah, and they don't require lots of money. Like you can test something out that you think might be a goer, and it might only be a few $100s to test it. And I think sketching it, writing it down in a book, and re-sketching it. And if you're a designer type, or you're an events person, you can start to piece all those things together. And just remember, 33,000 days. That's all you have. That's your time on set, and you're asleep for 1/3 of them. So it's
Yeah,
actually less than that, and you don't have the time that you think you do. You have to act now, and yeah, just go for it, and don't let those things sit on the sidelines. Put them into action. They're your little lottery tickets. That's your little lottery ticket. Don't go and spend $20 on an instant scratch it at the shop. Spend that $20 on, like, that like I've got a beach product here that I'm like developing, that I just thought of, and it's going to cost me maybe $500 to test, and like it might fail completely, but like it's a fun little project, and it just keeps my mind active, and if I'm having a down day, I'm like, oh, that thing might just take off, and it's like I can now entertain myself with where that goes, and so yeah, never let those ideas dissipate. Keep them bubbling, and you know get out of that day job you hate. And sometimes these little crazy ideas you have become NASA or become, you know, name any company. Every company of any success started with an idea in some fucker's mind. It's an idea. That's it.
Man, that's so true. Right, well, I guess I'm about to wrap up here and get to some work. But what do you actually do for fun? I guess we haven't really even spoken about that because it's all been about business. Because it is so interesting to talk to you. What do you do for fun?
So I have three amazing children, and they pretty much, working with them and playing with them is really where I get my fun from. I mean, we get a forward drive out, go to some of the sand islands, and my oldest son is into his parkour, so he does flips, and we just did a little YouTube video for him. So I'm learning how to like
I
edit
saw that.
YouTube. Yeah, so he's like a little Steve Irwin, my son Bo. And so I get such a kick out of my children having fun, and in the process, I'm learning how to do new things. And my other son, Bailey's a gamer, loves it. And then Lee, my daughter, is just, yeah, she's just such a personality. And just watching them grow and like ride bikes. We got a Pee Wee 50 going. Like this weekend, we're going Pee Wee 50 riding. So I do work hard, like I am a hard worker, and my fun really comes down to my kids. I am buying a BMX race bike because I do want to. I was going to say walk my talk, but I'm going to ride my talk.
Yeah.
If I own Thriller, I need to be on a BMX bike racing in the pants that I'm putting out there. So I have a BMX bike on my shopping list, and I am going to race it. And that's going to be great fun. I'm toying with the idea of an electric mountain bike. I had to go with Georgie and some of the other boys in Austria last year, and that was an incredible thing. So there's a few toys I need to add to my list, and yeah, just enjoying living in Burley Heads. Like here, we can go surfing, go for a ride. I still have a 24-inch BMX bike that I ride to the gym with, and that helps me clear my mind, And sometimes that's all you need.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. That's all I'm doing. To clear my mind, jump on a pushy, and to be honest, it doesn't clear my mind because in a way I'm kind of like you. I'll come back and I'll have 10 more ideas. I'm like, crap! I was supposed to get rid of things out of my mind. Now I've got more ideas. Damn it! Now which ones are going to work? Okay, so yeah, awesome, man.
Life.
No, good to. Yeah, exactly. That's it.
Driving. It's engaging you into action, and I think that's what it should do. And it's great to connect with you, mate. And we go back a long way. And it's cool that you're in Germany, and I'm in the Gold Coast right now. And it's technology as it's having a negative impact in many ways in our reality, but these sorts of moments and elements of it make it cool. And I've got friends all over the world now where we can interact like this, and this is one of those moments, mate. And hopefully someone can take something from our conversation and take something positive for it.
Yeah, exactly. That's all I hope from it as well. So, no, thanks so much for that, mate. It was great to have you on, and love to catch up with you again very soon in real life.
Let's do that.
Okay, so I have to say I'm incredibly humbled that Paul took the time to have this chat, and this was a long one. And I feel like time is his most precious commodity. As he explained earlier, we only have 33,000 days, and 1/3 of it is spent sleeping. So that means even more to me. So thank you so much, Paul. I'm stoked you took the time to come on and go into so much detail, and I really think this will be valuable information for everybody who listened today. Or if nothing else, just a cool story as you waste away the day doing whatever you're doing. So if you have been motivated to get out of fucking bed, just like Paul said, I'm just paraphrasing here. If you're motivated, jump on any of our social channels and let me know which part of this chat really had the most impact for you. or you can email me directly at steve@invertmanagement.com. I'd be pumped to hear that this chat has somehow sparked even just one person into doing something. For me personally, well, this might have been the kick in the ass I also needed to have. Not that I have the need for any more motivation. I don't need the need for any more ideas for any more projects because I've already got too many. But perhaps it's the trust in myself, or at least to pull the trigger on a few of them and just see what happens. And I guess I'll start to talk about them a little bit more in the near future, so keep your eyes peeled for that. Someone who has also always been behind me with plenty of my dumb ideas has been Jason at Lakes Networking, who continues to support me from riding freestyle motocross to building all of my websites, which includes the Riders Lounge podcast or even the Queensland Moto Park way back in the day. Lakes have always taken care of my phones, my laptops, and anything techie, and most of the new projects I'll be doing in the future will definitely be heavily influenced by tech into the future. And I've also got plenty of work to do right now as it happens, so I'm going to grab myself a bottle of motivation from Rothaus, the Tannin Zapfler alcohol-free beer, and I'm about to get stuck into some work and keep checking back for some more updates in the very near future. Thank you very much, and we'll see you soon on the next Riders Lounge podcast.